It started with silence. Not the quiet kind that follows peace, but a deep, endless silence that felt wrong. Across 10 star systems of the Zirath Dominion, no engines roared, no signals hummed, no life stirred. Whole fleets that once filled the stars were simply gone. The alien Queen Zorit had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 300 years. Her armies were feared. Her ships carried plasma cannons that could melt a planet's crust. Her empire had crushed every rebellion, every rival, every whisper of defiance. Until one night, her entire military vanished in a single heartbeat. No explosions, no wreckage, no lost transmissions. Just nothing. The first to notice were the outer colonies. Miners on the moon of Toei looked up and saw empty space where the Queen's warships once orbited. Then the central communication hub of Zareth Prime went silent. And when the Galactic Council tried to contact Queen Zorita's command center, there was no reply, only static. At first, no one believed it. The Zirath were too powerful, too organized. The Council assumed it was a communication glitch, or maybe an ambush. But when scout ships arrived, they found entire cities turned to dust, with no sign of battle. Streets were untouched, machines were cold, and weapons lay where soldiers had stood seconds before. Billions of beings were missing. No bodies, no survivors, just traces of energy unlike anything recorded before. Panic began to spread through the galaxy. Governments locked down borders. Refugees fled from Zirath space, fearing some invisible weapon. Conspiracy theories filled the networks. Some said a black hole swallowed them. Others said time itself had folded. But then, one report came in that made everything worse. From a small drone orbiting the planet Karen V, the final outpost of the Zirath war fleet, came an image, a lone human, standing on the surface, surrounded by dust. His figure was small against the burned horizon, his face shadowed by the twin suns. And he was smiling. The transmission lasted only 10 seconds before the drone's systems fried. But in those few seconds, every alien who saw the footage felt the same cold fear. There was no reason for a human to be there. No Earth colonies, no trade routes, no outposts. That world was supposed to be empty. Yet there he stood, calm, motionless, like someone waiting for something that had already happened. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session inside their floating citadel above the neutral world of Lorith. Delegates from 100 species filled the chamber. Holoscreens replayed the image of the human again and again. His expression was unreadable, part peace, part warning. The Seroth ambassador slammed his metallic claws on the table. This is an attack. The humans did this. The Kral diplomat hissed back. Impossible. Humans don't have the technology. No one does. But look at him, the Seroth snapped. He stands on the ashes of an empire and smiles. Silence filled the chamber again. Even the cold light of the stars beyond the council's glass walls seemed to dim. Finally, the council speaker, a tall Avran elder with skin like molten glass, leaned forward. Has Earth responded to our inquiries? A synthetic voice answered through the chamber's speakers. Transmission from Terran High Command received. They deny involvement. They claim to have no agents or missions in Zirath space. A low murmur spread among the delegates. No one believed Earth so easily. The humans were unpredictable, ambitious, dangerous in ways the galaxy never fully understood. The Avran elder spoke again. Then who is the human in the image? No one had an answer, but in the far reaches of the room, a shadowy figure, a retired war analyst from the Krell system, finally spoke in a whisper that carried farther than it should have. No army disappears like that, he said slowly, unless they were erased by something worse. The room went still. Outside, space itself seemed to pulse. Some said it was only the star fields shifting. Others said they felt a vibration deep inside their ships, like the heartbeat of something watching them. That night, secret messages moved through the networks. Words shared in coded whispers. The Queen's army did not die. They were taken. Taken by what? No one could say. On a dying moon near the border, a scavenger crew searching for survivors found something strange. The surface was littered with metallic ash, what used to be Zirath armor. But in the middle of the plain, they found a footprint. Human-shaped. Fresh. Their ship's captain, a hardened alien with eyes like black stone, touched the mark in the dust. The print was warm. It pulsed, faintly glowing as if something beneath the ground was alive. Then, without warning, the scanners of their ship screamed, picking up an energy signature spreading beneath the surface. The captain shouted for evacuation, but before they could lift off, a wave of blinding white light consumed the area. When other ships arrived days later, there was no trace of the crew, only more dust and another human footprint beside the first. Reports kept coming in. Strange symbols appeared carved into rock across abandoned Zirath worlds. Rings of melted glass, spinning in slow circles as if gravity itself had been disturbed. And in every case, readings showed a single repeating pulse, a pattern, like a message written across the stars. The pulse translated into 2 words in human language. "She's next." In that moment, the galaxy realized this wasn't the end of something. It was only the beginning. The Queen herself, the one who once made planets kneel, was being hunted. And somewhere out there, in the cold dark beyond the edge of known space, the same human who smiled was watching, waiting for his next move. For 3 long cycles, the Galactic Council searched for the truth behind the vanishing. Dozens of scout ships disappeared. Hundreds of probes went dark. Every trace led to one name, Ethan Harlan. The name came from a decrypted human archive, buried deep under Earth's military network. It appeared on a classified file marked Project Rift. The file had been locked for 30 years, hidden even from Earth's own government. The Council's intelligence officers didn't know how they found it. Some said it appeared by itself, like the system wanted to be found. Inside the file was a single photograph, a man in his 40s, sharp eyes, wearing a black Terran science uniform. The caption read, "Dr. Ethan Harlan, Dimensional Physics Division. Status, deceased. Location, Mars Colony 12. But Mars Colony 12 had been destroyed 10 years ago. No one survived. Also, everyone believed. The Council sent an investigation team led by Commander Rethar of the Vaughn species, a cold, metallic-skinned alien known for his logic. Alongside him were agents from 4 other worlds and 1 human observer named Lieutenant Myra Chan. She was young, sharp, and uneasy. Her orders were clear. Find Harlan, confirm his existence, and learn what happened to the Zirath army. Their ship, the Seraphis, crossed into dead space, past burnt-out stars and silent moons. Everywhere they went, they found the same marks, circles burned into the ground, symbols etched into stone, energy readings that pulsed like heartbeats. Rethar studied the readings, his voice low and calm. These are not weapon signatures. They are dimensional echoes. Myra frowned. Meaning? He turned his glowing eyes toward her. Meaning the army wasn't destroyed. It was moved. Moved? Myra thought. To where? 3 days later, the Seraphis reached a small frozen moon called Amorn 7. One of the last Zirath research sites before their fall. The surface was covered in thin blue ice, cracked with black veins of unknown material. The team landed near what looked like a half-buried fortress. Inside, the air was still. Lights flickered weakly, powered by something that refused to die. In the control chamber, they found a console that had been recently reactivated. Rethar's fingers moved quickly across the alien controls, pulling data. "Someone's been here," he said. "Very recently." Myra moved closer. "Can you trace it?" Before he could answer, the console lit up on its own. A holographic image appeared, grainy, but clear enough. It was him, Dr. Ethan Harlan. He stood in front of the camera, silent, his face half-shadowed. Behind him, the walls were covered with symbols that matched the burned circles found on other planets. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "You shouldn't have followed me." The team froze. "She's next," Harlan continued. The Queen opened the rift. Now it's calling her back. The screen went dark. Rethar's metallic jaw tightened. "He knows we're here," Myra whispered. "Then he's not dead." The console suddenly emitted a pulse, and every scanner on the ship went haywire. Readings spiked off the charts. The floor vibrated. The ice outside began to crack like thin glass. From beneath the surface, something enormous moved. Back to the ship, Rethar ordered. They ran through the tunnels as the ground split apart. The frozen floor collapsed into a glowing pit, and strange whispers filled the air, like voices speaking through water. Myra looked down and saw shapes in the light. Soldiers, weapons, ships, all frozen in mid-motion, as if trapped between seconds. The Zirath army. They weren't dead. They were stuck in whatever dimension Harlan had opened. The Seraphis barely escaped orbit before the entire moon caved in. From space, the crew watched as the ice cracked into perfect circles, forming the same spiral pattern seen on the other vanished worlds. In the center of that spiral, light flashed and then faded. No explosion, no debris, just silence. Back aboard the ship, Rethar reviewed the footage. He said, "She's next," he muttered. Myra stared at the frozen frame of Harlan's face. "The Queen," she said, "is going after her." Rethar nodded slowly. "Or something else is." Meanwhile, far from the Council's reach, deep in the dark corners of the galaxy, Queen Zorit sat in her throne chamber, her claws digging into the arms of her seat. The reports of her missing armies had shaken even her cold heart. Now, her own scientists brought her news of the strange human who seemed to follow the disappearances. They showed her the same footage, the smiling man, the burned ground, the message. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "Find him," she hissed. "Find this human and bring me his head." Her generals bowed, but there was fear in their movements. They had seen what happened to her army. Even her most loyal soldiers whispered among themselves. What if the Queen herself had called something she could not control? Back aboard the Seraphis, Myra watched the stars from the observation deck. She couldn't sleep. The image of Harlan's calm face haunted her mind. Why would a human smile after wiping out an entire empire? She whispered to herself, "What did you do, Harlan?" The ship's AI suddenly came online, speaking in a flat tone. "Commander, incoming transmission. Origin, unknown." Rethar appeared beside her, his cold blue eyes narrowing. "Play it." The hologram appeared, static, then a faint outline of a man. "Harlan again." "Stop looking for me," he said softly. "You don't understand what she opened. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival." Myra leaned forward. "What are you talking about? What's coming?" Harlan's expression changed. For the first time, there was a trace of fear in his eyes. "She's not the Queen anymore," he said. "She's becoming something else." The image faded, leaving only static. Rethar turned slowly toward Myra. "Prepare a report for the Council. Tell them the truth." Myra hesitated. "And what truth is that?" He looked out the window, where a faint blue glow shimmered across the stars. "That we're not facing a human or an alien. We're facing the void itself." The ship drifted in silence, surrounded by flickering lights that looked almost alive, like the stars themselves were watching. And somewhere, far away in the black sea of space, Dr. Ethan Harlan smiled again. Queen Zorit sat alone in her throne chamber. The room, once filled with the hum of power and the presence of her generals, was now quiet. Only the low pulse of the energy conduits broke the silence. The light from the red giant star outside cast long shadows across the black metal walls, turning her reflection into something almost monstrous. She was known across 100 systems as the Eternal Queen, the mind behind 1,000 wars. Her voice could command fleets to move, and whole worlds obeyed. But now, for the first time in her long reign, she felt something unfamiliar, something sharp and heavy in her chest. Fear. Her armies were gone. Her fleets erased. Her war worlds turned to dust. And now the Council whispered that a single human was behind it. Zorit's advisors approached carefully. None dared look her in the eye. "My queen," said the high strategist, bowing low, "our last patrol near the rift belt has vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage. Only this." He placed a small orb before her. It glowed faintly blue, showing a grainy image of a human man walking across the ashes of a dead city. "Dr. Ethan Harlan." Zorit leaned forward slowly. "You are certain this is the same man?" Yes, my queen. He appeared on Morn 7, then disappeared into the rift belt. Our senses cannot track him. The queen's long claws tap the side of her throne. And the council? They investigate, but quietly. They fear you may strike back. A dark smile touched her lips. Then let them fade. She stood, tall and gleaming in her living armor, and turned toward the great viewing window. The stars outside seemed dimmer than before. You said he came from the Terrans, she said. Humans. Yes, Majesty. I remember them, she said softly. I crushed one of their colonies a century ago. They were primitive then, emotional, violent, but clever. Her voice hardened. No human could erase my fleets. Something else moves through him. Meanwhile, far away, deep beneath the broken surface of another dead world, Ethan Harlan was still moving. He carried no weapon. No ship followed him. But behind him, space itself shimmered, like heat over metal. The air around him bent and twisted, humming softly as if reality itself tried to resist him. He stopped at the edge of an old Zirath temple. The walls were covered in ancient runes. At the center, a black crystal pulsed faintly, still alive. Harlan placed his hand on it. The crystal reacted instantly. Flashes of light, whispers, faces of creatures long gone. His voice was quiet, calm. She's close, he said. The link is open again. The crystal flickered once more, showing a shape. The queen herself, sitting on her throne, surrounded by her dark energy. Harlan's mouth tightened. You shouldn't have touched it, Zaret. You opened the rift, and now it's looking back. He turned away, the air rippling around him as he vanished into the shadows. Back in her throne room, Zaret suddenly felt a tremor deep in her bones. The lights flickered. For a moment, she thought she heard a voice, a whisper that came from every direction and none at all. You took what was not yours. She froze. Who dares? No one answered. Her guards looked confused. They hadn't heard it, but she had. It spoke inside her mind. You called across the veil. Now the veil calls back. Zaret's heart slammed in her chest. She had heard of such voices before, ancient warnings from the early days of her empire. Her ancestors once believed the universe was layered like an onion, each dimension resting on the other. To open one was to disturb all. She had mocked those stories. Now, she wasn't so sure. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council met again. Commander Rethar and Lieutenant Marachan appeared before the chamber, their faces pale. They played the new recordings from Morn 7, the frozen Zirath soldiers trapped in glowing blue light, still alive but unmoving. They were pulled out of this dimension, Rethar explained. Frozen in time. The council members murmured nervously. Myra spoke next. And it's spreading. The same readings are showing up near the Queen's home system. If it reaches her capital. The Avran speaker interrupted. You're saying reality itself could collapse. Myra nodded. Yes. And the only person who seems to understand it is a human we can't find. The speaker's eyes flickered. Then find him. Or we may lose more than an empire. We may lose the galaxy. On her capital world, Queen Zaret stood before her great army. What remained of it? Half her ships were gone, their crews missing. Her scientists reported strange things. Engines freezing in mid-flight, soldiers vanishing during drills, weapons that refused to fire as if space itself had turned against them. She shouted over the chaos. No more Fae. This is a test of our strength. The human will be found and crushed. But even as she spoke, a tremor rippled through the air. The ground cracked beneath her. Blue light spilled upward, swirling in patterns that matched the strange symbols seen on the other worlds. Her soldiers screamed. One by one, they began to flicker, fading like shadows under the sun. No, she roared, but her voice was drowned by the sound of a deep hum, like a million voices chanting in perfect unison. When the light cleared, half her forces were gone, and etched into the palace floor, glowing faintly, were two words in human language. You opened it. Far above, watching through a satellite's cracked lens, Ethan Harlan stood on a nearby moon, staring at the chaos unfolding. The wind tugged at his coat, but his expression stayed calm. He whispered to himself, You shouldn't have played with the dark between worlds, Zorit. Now it's coming for you. He looked up at the stars, many of which were beginning to flicker, and smiled faintly. I'll try to stop it, he said, but not for you. And then, like smoke in the wind, he was gone. The galaxy was breaking apart, not from war, but from fear. Every government, every military, every fleet now whispered one name, Ethan Harlan. The human who walked through vanished armies. The man who smiled as empires fell silent. Across thousands of star systems, strange things were happening. Ships would drift out of formation, their clocks frozen for hours. Communication arrays picked up ghost signals, recordings of voices that hadn't spoken in centuries. Planets near the Rift Belt reported seeing mirrors in the sky, thin lines of light that reflected nothing. Something was changing in the fabric of space itself. Deep within Earth's secret military network, alarms were flashing red. In a bunker hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Black Signal Division was awake for the first time in 30 years. Its commander, General Marcus Vance, stared at the holographic display. It showed the same face the aliens feared, the calm human with sharp eyes. Dr. Ethan Harlan, Vance said quietly. You're supposed to be dead. Beside him, a younger officer swallowed nervously. So, the council believes he caused the rift incidents. Vance shook his head. No, Harlan didn't cause them. He warned us they would come. We didn't listen. He looked at the map of the galaxy. Dozens of red dots marked the vanished fleets. He said the rift was a doorway, not a weapon. The Queen tried to use it. Now it's using her. At that same hour, the Galactic Council called for emergency cooperation with Earth. It was the first time in history that humans and aliens agreed to work together against an unknown threat. Commander Rethar and Lieutenant Myra-chan were assigned to lead the joint mission. Their goal was simple, but impossible. Find Ethan Harlan and stop whatever he had started. Their ship, the Seraphis II, moved into the dark between stars. They followed the strange pulse, the repeating signal that kept showing up wherever Harlan had been. It was like a heartbeat, echoing through subspace. Myra sat at the controls, her fingers shaking slightly. Do you really think he'll talk to us? Rethar's metallic voice stayed calm. He left messages before. That means he wants to be found. The question is, why? Before Myra could answer, their sensors beeped. A faint signal appeared ahead, a station floating inside a debris field, half torn apart by gravity. The ID code was human, but decades old. Old Mars Research Base, Myra said, surprised. That's impossible. Those were destroyed. Not all of them, Rethar replied. He was one of the architects. They landed carefully. Inside, the corridors were silent and cold. Dust floated in the air like ghostly snow. The lights flickered, showing broken lab equipment and ancient symbols burned into the walls. At the center of the base, they found it, a door made of pure black metal, smooth and seamless, humming with power. Symbols ran across it in both human and Zirath language. Myra stepped closer. What is this place? Rethar scanned the door. This is no weapon. It's a containment chamber. Whatever's inside, it's alive. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed from the shadows. You shouldn't have come here. They turned. Ethan Harlan stood at the edge of the light, his face calm, eyes glowing faintly blue. Myra froze. You're real. Harlan smiled faintly. Real enough. You've been following me. Rethar raised a scanner. We need answers, Harlan. What happened to the Zirath? What is this door? Harlan looked at it with something like sorrow. This isn't a door. It's a scar. The Queen tried to open it wider. Now the wound spreads. Myra stepped forward. We saw what you did to her armies. He shook his head. I didn't destroy them. I tried to save them. They touched the rift and were pulled in. They still exist, trapped between dimensions, alive but frozen. Rethar frowned. Then what are we facing? Harlan's voice dropped to a whisper. A consciousness. A hunger that lives between worlds. The Queen thought she could control it, but it's controlling her now. Before they could respond, alarms blared through the station. Outside, ships were appearing, dozens of them. Myra looked at the radar. Zirath warships. They found us. Rethar's metallic skin shimmered with tension. "We must leave." But Harlan didn't move. He simply watched the black metal door as it began to glow. Too late. She's already here. The door cracked open, spilling out a wave of light so bright it blinded them. Space itself seemed to scream. The Zirath ships outside opened fire, but their beams froze mid-air, stopped by invisible walls of energy. The light twisted, forming shapes, shadows of creatures that flickered between existence and nothingness. The ships dissolved, their hulls stretching and fading into thin lines before vanishing completely. Myra grabbed Harlan's arm. "What is that?" "The rift," he said quietly. "The other side trying to enter." Rethar forced the scanners to stabilize. "If this continues, it will consume the entire system." Harlan turned toward them, his face illuminated by the chaos. "Then you'll have to trust me." "Trust you? You started this." Myra shouted. "No," he said. "She did. I'm trying to end it." He moved to the control panel, typing commands faster than their eyes could follow. The door pulsed, resisting. The walls of the station cracked. Outside, the rift storm tore through space, shredding asteroids into dust. Harlan reached into his coat and pulled out a small glowing sphere, the same energy pattern seen at every vanished battlefield. Myra recognized it instantly. "That's the same signature, the one that erased her fleets." He nodded. "It's a piece of the rift. But unlike her, I can contain it, for now." He pressed the orb against the panel. Light exploded, and a deep sound filled the air, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The door slammed shut, the energy fading away. For a long moment, there was silence again. Rethar looked around. "You stopped it." Harlan shook his head. "No, I slowed it down. But the Queen, she's trying to merge with it. If she succeeds, she won't just rule this galaxy. She'll become it." Myra's eyes widened. "Then what can we do?" Harlan looked out the cracked window, where the last of the light was fading into the stars. "She made her choice," he said softly. "Now I'll make mine." He turned away, vanishing into the shadows once more, leaving only a faint blue pulse behind, beating like a warning. The station was gone. All that remained of it was drifting metal and silent light, floating in the empty black of space. Commander Rethar and Lieutenant Myra Chan escaped just in time, their ship thrown far by the shockwave that followed when Ethan Harlan sealed the rift door. But as the calm returned, they realized something strange. The stars had moved. Not slightly, completely. Myra stayed out the window. "Where are we?" Rethar checked the readings. "Coordinates unknown. This isn't our galaxy." The stars outside flickered like dying candles. Some shone too bright. Others dimmed as if hidden behind smoke. The instruments read impossible numbers, time flowing faster, gravity bending inward, reality twisting like liquid. They weren't just lost. They were somewhere between. Harlan appeared on the ship's comms channel, his image surrounded by static. "You followed me again." Myra gasped. "You brought us here." "No," he said. "She did." The Queen opened another rift. "She's no longer just a ruler. She's a doorway now." Rethar's voice was calm but strained. "Then this is her doing?" "Yes," Harlan replied. "She's merged with the rift's energy. She's trying to control it, to make it her weapon. But the rift doesn't obey. It consumes." The image flickered, and for a second, something else appeared behind Harlan, a shadow with eyes like dying stars. It moved like smoke and light at the same time. Myra whispered, "What is that?" Harlan's face turned grim. The thing that destroyed her armies. The thing she called without understanding. "It's the shadow between worlds." Far away, deep in the shattered remains of the Zirath capital, Queen Zorit stood in what was left of her throne room. The walls melted and twisted, turning into shapes that seemed alive. Her body no longer looked entirely solid. Parts of her armor flickered in and out, glowing with blue cracks. Her voice echoed strangely, overlapping itself. "They call it the shadow. They are wrong. It's a god." She raised her hand, and space bent around her. Ships that tried to flee her orbit froze mid-flight, their metal warping like clay. Soldiers screamed as their voices turned to echoes of light. The rift energy pulsed through her veins, whispering thoughts that weren't hers. You can rule eternity. Open the way. And she believed it. Her scientists, trembling, tried to shut down the energy fields. One shouted, "My queen, it's too much. You're merging with it. You'll lose yourself." She turned her golden eyes on him. "Then I'll lose everything that isn't power." Her claws struck through the air, and the scientist vanished, his body erased as if he'd never existed. Back aboard the Seraphis II, Myra watched in horror as their sensors picked up energy spikes across multiple sectors, all pointing back to the Queen's homeworld. Rethar's metallic face darkened. She's doing it again. Another rift. Myra's voice trembled. If she keeps opening them, won't they merge? Harlan's voice answered softly through the comm, yes. And if they merge, reality breaks. He appeared again on the main holo screen, his expression calm but his eyes burning with blue light. "There's one way to stop her," he said. "We have to face her in the rift itself." Myra frowned. "That's suicide. You said even her armies couldn't survive there." Harlan nodded. "They couldn't. But I'm not sending you there. I'm going alone." Rethar's eyes glowed faintly. "You'll die." "Maybe," Harlan said. "But if I don't, we all will." The ship's hull trembled. A faint hum filled the air, the same sound heard before every disappearance. Myra turned to Harlan. "What are you planning?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a silver shard, the same kind of energy core he'd used to seal the rift. Only this one pulsed faster, brighter, alive. "This is what's left of our army," he said quietly. "Their energy, their minds. I can use it to enter the rift and close it from the inside." Myra stared at him. "You'll trap yourself." He smiled faintly. "I was already trapped when this began." Meanwhile, inside the Queen's fortress, space folded in on itself. The air shimmered with millions of tiny lights, souls of her lost soldiers flickering in the dark. The shadow between worlds was no longer hidden. It stood behind her throne now, vast and formless, whispering in 1,000 voices. "We will make you eternal." Zarata's face twisted into a smile. "Yes, I see it now. Not a weapon, a crown." Her body lifted into the air, glowing bright white, her form breaking apart into waves of energy. Her eyes burned with both rage and madness. She looked out across the stars, her voice booming through every frequency. Bow before the Queen of the Rift. Across the galaxy, entire systems flickered. Moons cracked. Oceans froze mid-wave. Time slowed. Reality trembled like it might fall apart. Myra turned to Rethar. "If she keeps this up, the galaxy won't survive." Harlan's voice came again, quieter this time. "Then it's time." He stood inside a small chamber, surrounded by swirling blue light. He placed the silver shard in the air, and it hovered before him, humming like a heartbeat. "Tell the council I was right," he said softly, "and tell them to remember one thing. Humans don't run from the dark." Myra tried to stop him. "Wait, Harlan. There has to be another way." He smiled. "Maybe, but not this time." The chamber's light grew brighter. The walls vanished. The last thing Myra saw was his calm face disappearing into pure white. And then, the entire system went silent. Outside, the rift exploded into view, a swirling storm of light, shadow, and energy stretching across the stars. At its center, two figures faced each other, the glowing shape of Queen Zorit and the small, human silhouette of Ethan Harlan. The shadow between worlds loomed behind them, its shape shifting like liquid darkness, reaching for both. Harlan's voice echoed faintly across space. "You wanted power, Zorit. Let me show you what it costs." He raised his hand, and the silver shard ignited. The rift screamed, folding inward. The light consumed everything. Ships, worlds, even the stars themselves. Then, just as suddenly, it was over. The storm vanished. The galaxy went quiet. Only silence remained. For several minutes, the galaxy was silent. No one moved. No ship spoke. No signal pulsed through the deep void. The stars hung still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, the light returned. Myra opened her eyes inside the Seraphis II. Her body floated gently in zero gravity, surrounded by sparks and drifting pieces of her control panel. Smoke curled through the cabin, and alarms blinked red, weak and fading. "Commander Rethar," she whispered, coughing. The tall alien stirred nearby, his silver armor cracked, his breathing heavy but steady. "We're alive," he said slowly, "but I don't know where." Outside the ship's cracked viewport, the stars looked wrong again. The constellations had changed. The light from nearby systems pulsed strangely, as if time itself were rippling. The rift was gone, but something else had replaced it. Myra tried to restore communication. Static. Every frequency screamed with white noise. Then, faintly, a voice broke through. "Myra, Rethar, do you copy?" It was Ethan Harlan. Myra gasped. "Ethan, you alive?" "Barely," his voice said, distorted and distant. "The rift's closed, but she's not gone. She's inside it now, and so am I." Rethar's cold mechanical eyes narrowed. "Inside? What do you mean?" "She merged with the shadow," Harlan replied. "It tried to consume her, but she fought back. She became part of it." The static grew louder, his words cutting in and out. "Now she's rebuilding, not in your world. In mine." Then his voice faded completely. Myra stared at the silent calm he's trapped with her. Rethar turned toward the stars. "Then the battle isn't over. In another place, beyond light, beyond matter, the rift storm swirled like a living ocean. There was no up or down, no sense of time, only endless motion and sound, like wind and thunder trapped inside crystal. And in the middle of it floated two beings, one human, one alien, both glowing with energy. Ethan Harlan stood on what looked like cracked glass, the same silver shard hovering near his hand. His clothes were torn, his face pale, but his eyes burned with purpose. Across from him, Queen Zorit had changed completely. Her once physical body had become light and shadow. Her golden armor melted into ribbons of energy that drifted around her like wings. Her voice carried through the storm, beautiful and terrifying. "You tried to stop me, human, and now you've joined me in my kingdom." Harlan's jaw tightened. "This isn't your kingdom. It's a cage." She smiled. "Perhaps, but you in it too." The ground beneath them rippled, forming strange glowing symbols, remnants of the Zirath runes used to control the rift. Zorit raised her hand, and the runes pulsed to life, connecting her to the swirling storm around them. "I see everything now," she said softly. "The past, the future, every thought that ever was. I am beyond death." Harlan lifted the shard. "You sound just like the thing that tried to destroy you." Her golden eyes flared. "Because I am it now." Outside the rift, in a normal universe, Myra and Rethar found something terrifying. Fragments of alien energy spreading across nearby star systems. Whole planets glowed faintly blue, their surfaces cracking open. Ships vanished into small flashes of light. Myra stayed at the readings. She's reaching through the barrier. The rift energy, it's leaking out. Rethar's metallic voice was grim. "If it spreads to other sectors, reality will tear apart. We need to contain it." They worked fast, rerouting the ship's power to build an improvised field generator. But even as they did, the ship began shaking. A strange voice whispered through the systems, echoing in every direction. "I see you, little ones. You think you can hide from a god?" The lights dimmed. The control panels glowed with alien symbols. Zorit's voice echoed through the ship. "Your world will be next." Inside the rift, Harlan braced himself as Zorit spread her arms, summoning a wave of energy. The storm surged toward him, tearing at his body, his mind. But he stood firm, anchoring himself with the silver shard. He shouted above the roar, "You're not a god, Zorit. You're just a queen who was afraid to lose." She laughed, a sound that rippled through the entire void. "And you're just a man who doesn't know when to kneel." Her power struck him like lightning, flinging him backward. He crashed through layers of glowing glass and fell into endless dark. He couldn't see, couldn't move. But deep inside, he felt something watching him. A whisper, soft, familiar. Not the queen. Not the shadow. You can stop her, but not by fighting her power, by using it. The voice wasn't human. It was a collective echo of the vanished Zirath soldiers, the same ones he had absorbed into the shard. Their minds were still alive inside it. Harlan clutched the glowing core. You're still here. We are everywhere. Use us. Together, we can bind her. He looked up into the swirling light above him, where Zarit hovered, surrounded by her new power. His face hardened. All right, he whispered. Let's end this. Back on the Seraphis 2, Myra watched helplessly as energy readings spiked again. Entire sectors were collapsing. Stars blinked out one by one. She turned to Rethar. If we don't stop her soon, this whole arm of the galaxy will disappear. He didn't answer right away. His senses flickered as he scanned the strange energy waves. Then his eyes widened. Myra, look. Out in the distance, near the center of the rift distortion, a bright white light appeared, growing, pulsing stronger. It wasn't the queen. It wasn't the shadow. It was something else. Harlan's voice returned through the static, louder this time, calm but powerful. She wants to rule the darkness. I'm going to turn it against her. Inside the rift, Ethan's entire body glowed now, surrounded by the energy of the Zirath soldiers. Their voices echoed in unison through him. We will bind the queen. You are our hand. He raised the shard high, its surface cracking under the strain. Zarit, you wanted eternity. Let's see if you can stand forever. Zarit's golden form turned, her expression twisted in fury. You dare challenge me again. The storm roared louder, shaking the entire void. Reality itself began to break. As they charged toward each other, one human blazing with the souls of the fallen, one queen consumed by godlike power, the rift trembled like a heart about to burst. And some way, far across the universe, stars began to vanish one by one.